All right, in this video, I'm going to be covering a topic that I think is very important in this industry because I hear this talked about a lot, and that is burnout in InfoSec. And a lot of people, when they talk about this, when they bring this topic up, there's a sense of kind of hopelessness, like they're kind of lost. They're not sure how they can sustain all the requirements just to be successful in this industry. I'm going to break down how you can manage that burnout and how you can actually largely avoid experiencing it altogether. So if that sounds interesting to you, be sure to stay tuned. All right, guys, there's a lot of ways that this burnout can set in. If any of you guys have been working in this industry for any amount of time, if you haven't experienced it yourself, you probably heard a lot of people talking about burnout in InfoSec. Now, I'd say there's a number of reasons of why this happens. And I think it's something that it stems from multiple sources. So we're just going to kind of go through what those sources are and how we can kind of optimize in those areas. And personally, I don't really experience too much burnout, if any, in this industry because of how I've learned to navigate it. But I would say the first thing is when it comes to the corporate environment, you want to make sure that that you are kind of managing your own expectations of what you can do. Go above and beyond for sure, but don't make a habit of working way past the hours all the time. Now, I'm kind of fortunate in the fact that I am a contractor, so I'm actually not allowed to work outside of my normal hours without them, because then they would have to pay me overtime. And it's only in the contract. It's written down in a contract saying that I'm only supposed to be working the hours that I work. So I don't have to worry about that too much, but I know a lot of people, especially at my old job, they would work beyond the hours at times. And there's nothing wrong with doing this in a pinch once in a while if you feel so compelled. But oftentimes, and this is the next thing I'm going to get to, oftentimes the reason that people are working past the hours is because they don't have their things in order. They're not being efficient with the time they have. If you're efficient with the time you have, you don't need any more than an 8-hour day to get your stuff done. You probably honestly need a lot less time than that to get everything done. We'll get to that in a minute. Because the main thing is if you're constantly working past the hours, what's going to happen is it's going to become expected of you, and people are going to start expecting you to work these crazy hours, and you kind of set the bar for that, and that's kind of on you at that point. But if you don't have recovery, you're going to burn out. It's just a matter of time, right? And so you really need to manage your own expectations there. Now, with that being said, right, what I'm not saying is don't get your work done, because we're going to talk about efficiency here in a second. And if you're efficient with what you do, you don't need to work overtime, okay? Now, 2021 for me has been the year of learning about productivity, learning about efficiency, and wow, I can't believe how much there was to learn for me, and I think there's still quite a lot for me to learn. If you guys want to sort of go down that rabbit hole of productivity and just optimizing your time, and because really what I will say is the best benefit of it is it literally adds hours to your day. Like honestly, time, what I've started to understand more and more and more as my life goes on is that time is the thing that so many people misunderstand, right? So many people are focused on money as a resource, and they say, oh, I don't have enough money, I need more money and all of this stuff. You definitely need more money, of course. But an even more critical resource than money is time, because you could lose all your money and you could make that money back. But once your time is gone, it's gone forever. And that's why, it's so, when you think about things through this lens, it seems so ridiculous that some people wait in hours and hours long lines just to get something for free, right? As if their time isn't worth anything, And so a bit of a tangent there, but I will say that, if you do learn this productivity stuff pretty well, you're basically giving yourself free time, which is the only way you can really get time. Other than that, there's no way you can't make more hours in the day, right? but you can make better use of your hours in the day. So that's the whole concept behind that. And, but yeah, I was just going to say that if you would like to go down this rabbit hole a bit, one book that I would highly recommend, it was recommended to me by one of my friends, and wow, what a great read. In fact, I'm going to buy the book in the physical after this just to have it as a reference because it was that good, is Getting Things Done by David Allen. Basically, when he wrote this book, he was writing to, other employees of businesses and working with people from various businesses, and for the benefit of their work, teaching them how you would give seminars and stuff, teaching people how they could better optimize their time in the workplace to get more things done, right? Get more things, checked off their list. But also it's very applicable to your personal life as well. And just really making the most of your time. We'll just say it like that. And so it's extremely relevant to not only to you on the job, but whatever personal goals you have as well, you could apply this stuff to. A lot of the inefficiency that people have stems from not having, clear goals with their things they're working on and not writing things down, especially. That was a big takeaway. You definitely want to write things down. You want to write out every single project. If you have a next action step and it's not clear what you need to do, it's like multiple things, you need to list that as a project and you need to break down every step of it. So every step of the way, you know what you're doing, right? Because one thing about us as humans is we are absolutely terrible at recollection. We're really bad at recalling things from memory. And not to mention, it is pretty mentally taxing for us to do so. So if you're not writing your stuff down, writing down all the things you need to do for the day or for the week, month, whatever, then you're going to have to recall it and you're going to lose so much efficiency in the process. So the very first preliminary thing you need to do, you need to write down everything pretty much, right? And you need to have a good method of cataloging stuff, resources and all of that. Because the problem, that a lot of people say in this space is that there's so much stuff they want to learn and there's not enough time to learn it. There's enough time, but you got to make time and you got to prioritize, right? You need to prioritize the things that you want to get done, right? You need to make sure that you're very clear on what you're going to get done and when, and, have timelines for your different projects as well. So one thing that's interesting in the book that he mentioned was that, people are so bad at managing their projects and actually taking actions on them. But for whatever strange reason, when the clock's ticking and the deadline is like coming up, all of a sudden they start actually taking action on the stuff they need to, and they're at their most efficient there when they're scrambling, right? You probably, if you went to college, you probably can resonate with that a bit. You would have every intention of studying for the exam well in advance, but then you would just put it off, procrastinate. Then you got like 24 hours to the exam and you would cram and you would actually push yourself to take action then. Well, you can tap into that efficiency without having yourself facing the 0 hour, if you will. And the book goes all into tons and tons of methods that you could apply, actionable steps that you could take to be more efficient. And if you are able to be more efficient, that's going to give you more time, right? That's going to give you more time on the job. So what's going to happen is you're going to get stuff done a lot quicker, a lot more efficiently. And then that's going to allow you a little bit more breathing room, and you're not going to feel so stressed out. You're not going to feel as burnt out. I can guarantee you of that. Now, another avenue potentially of this burnout is that some people kind of fall into the trap, I would say, of the sort of keeping up with the Joneses mentality. You probably have heard this before when it comes to like Instagram, how they're like, yeah, all these people, they just show the highlights of their life on Instagram. So when you see them on Instagram, you compare your life to theirs, and you feel like your life sucks, but you got to realize that their life isn't as great as they portray it to be necessarily. You're just seeing the high points, You're seeing the version of their life that they choose to show to you, right? Well, similar thing with like Twitter, right? With InfoSec Twitter. You go on there, there's some brilliant people on there that are experts at this aspect of security or that aspect of security, and you might look at them and feel way behind, like, this guy knows all this stuff, I don't know any of this stuff, I'm behind. And then you feel that pent up, it kind of builds up on you, like, this feeling of being behind, and the stress kind of mounts up, right? Well, let's pump the brakes here for a second, right? You're not behind, okay? You know darn well, I mean, what is it? It's April 2021. There's some people that aren't even going to learn, even get into this field for several more years, right? There's people that are not even going to touch. Think about it this way. There's people that have not ever even touched a Linux terminal yet, and they're going to get the OSCP in a couple of years, right? They're going to be experts in the field in a few years, and they haven't even joined the field yet, So, and all the time, you can look at anything, right? There's people that are going to be superstar. There's going to be the next LeBron James, and he might not even have touched a basketball. Maybe he's not even born yet, right? So you're not behind. As far behind as you think you are, you can always learn, you can always catch up. But also, that person that is an expert at, bug bounties, and he makes $100,000 a year in bug bounties, and he's an expert with JavaScript and all this stuff. He might be terrible at the stuff required for OSCP, right? He might be terrible at some of the networking side of things, some of the modifying exploits and stuff like that. He might be terrible. In fact, a lot of those guys that are those expert level bug bounty hunters, they actually don't even have certifications, right? They didn't even see the value in them, right? To them, they gravitated towards another area of security, right? The very, very hands-on, bug bounty hunting, right? That was their thing. So, you might be going for multiple things. You might be dipping your toes in the water of a bunch of different things, and you might not necessarily be a master of any one area yet, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? You can decide what your area is going to be down the line, too. You're not behind, right? A lot of these people, they're experts at one area, completely clueless in other areas, right? No one knows everything in security. I say that a lot, but it's true, and you got to remember that. You definitely have to remember that. And I think understanding that and approaching that with a very clear mind will help alleviate some of that stress, some of that burnout. And then as well, make time for your hobby, some things that you enjoy outside of work, right? I think that some people that when they feel behind, they kind of get into that mode of, I got to catch up. And they just spend 100% of their time doing, studying and learning stuff, which is great, but then they can't maintain that. It's not sustainable. So then they crash down. They go 100% in the other direction, right? And they don't even touch any extra learning outside of work for several months or whatever the case may be. So definitely make time for break time. Recovery is very important when it comes to weight training. Same thing applies to your mental when it comes to work and things like that. So, yep, definitely keep all these tips in mind, and I think you will be A-okay. You won't have to worry about burnout for the most part. And let me know if these tips helped you at all, definitely. And if you watched to this point, go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. I mean, what are you doing? But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, in all honesty, hit the like button. It'll help get this message out there, and I will see you guys in some of those later videos over on the screen there.